Hello, 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 and welcome to February 28th. We are almost at Leap Year Day, which is one of my favorite days of the year. That's not true. It's just one of the only times that I will experience a leap year in the 2020s, as will all of you. So, hey, it's rare. It's fun. I like rare stuff. So, I hope you're having a good evening. I'm here to talk to you tonight about some cool stuff about the springtime market. I think it's getting there. I've got a real thin hoodie on. I've got a short sleeve shirt I've been walking around in today. I'm feeling good about the springtime. I'm excited about it. And so as that feeling comes, you always know that the real estate market starts turning up. It starts getting warm. People start getting out looking at more houses. And the only problem with that is that there aren't a lot of houses yet to look at. And so that's one of the biggest problems right now is there still is not a lot of inventory compared to how many people want houses. And that still has resonated with, I mean, what's really happening is people are still making a lot of offers, not getting them accepted sometimes. And I think we've got some things to go over and some stuff I want to show you in a PowerPoint that will influence, I think, what you might be preparing for, or what the best things to do to prepare for the spring 2024 relocation season. There are some things that even in the last couple of weeks, I've been working through some things, talking with people, helping buyers. And there have been some things over the last several years that I've been thinking about and kind of marinating in, and I think I've finally gotten some concepts that I've been able to process and get on paper. So I want to share that with you, and it involves how to prepare for and how to make the best offers for houses and how to do it in a way that's best for you. And so we're going to go through that this evening too. And this can apply for anybody. I mean, if you're moving, to Virginia Beach, to Williamsburg, to Pocosin, it could be to anywhere, because these same strategies or mindsets, they're relevant not just in spring 2024, but all across. I mean, they can exist anytime. But I think specifically for now, I felt really compelled to talk about this because of what's happening in the market right now. So I want to quickly show you some stats to give you some context as to what's going on currently. And so the first thing, it is showing you, here's some stats showing the Virginia Beach market and the median sales prices in the area. So first of all, that's not the right number right there I just showed you. We're going to go ahead and detached single family houses in just Virginia Beach, just to show you where we're looking. And right now that's 409 in January. And so as we get into February, those new numbers will come out. That number will that could drop a little bit more because part of January, you'll still see some settled prices lower than what you might expect. Some of that reasoning is because I would not say the most optimal or the most prime houses that get listed always are selling in December, January, and November. So you're finding some kind of lag from the pricing that happens with the houses that are being priced in the wintertime. As you go into springtime, you'll see that number jump. And if you even see in the stats here, again, every year, the numbers go up. Median sales price goes up as you go into the March, April, May, June time period, and then it goes back down again. So every year it does that, and it's not that surprising. So you can see it, the zigzag, right? So we're coming down, and we're going to be going back up again. I'm expecting that to hit somewhere in the 450 range by the time the spring into the summertime real estate market it ends. But again, this is median sales price. So this is not, every house is going to be 450. There'll be some, I think there will be 3. There'll be some that will be 8. It definitely ranges there. So, so that's number one. I want to show you. So let me start over first by saying that there are certain things that you have to keep in mind and you have to expect almost regardless of the year. And, so you watch the news, right? And by the way, wherever you're watching from, I'd love to hear where you're watching from. You can comment below. You can comment there. You can also, you can say anything you want, really. But any questions, please leave any questions in the comments, and in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them as I'm talking. But you read the national news, you read maybe even the regional news, and you hear a lot about, okay, is the market crashing? Is the market going straight up? Whatever. Well, in this area, you'll find that a lot of the real estate market in Virginia Beach through Williamsburg is cyclical, and so you'll find that a majority of houses between March, April, May, and June are going to get listed. Like a higher proportion of houses in those few months get listed compared to the rest of the year, and even sometimes March really is when things get started really, and that's pretty much cyclical. You can kind of predict that every year. Now, you'll see the question is like, well, is the market going to crash? Well, usually as you see in that chart this past just a couple minutes ago, you see that every year, even if it's the trend is down or the trend is up, you'll see it range in that given year. So the question more is, and to me, is a matter of, is the market trending up or trending down? To me, the answer is it's trending up. And so that's when part of why you'll see prices increase as you go into the spring months. Excuse me, just one second. Sorry, that was bad TV. I had to close the door, making a bunch of noise. So keep that in mind. Every year, you can kind of expect those prices to go up. So as you might, oh, here we go. Hey, Tammy, watching from Virginia Beach, still waiting to find a condo or townhouse within my budget. What's your budget? Sorry to hear that though. Yeah, and part of that could be because of what's in the market right now. There's not a whole lot. I mean, I'm seeing things trickle. I'm seeing things trickle. Where's my little word you want? There it is. I'm seeing things trickle in the market, but I don't think until we get into March, April, we're going to see a whole lot more. But the concept there to keep in mind, and this is before I start going into the slideshow. I'm learning about slideshows. I'm very excited about the slideshows. Is that you can wait for more houses to hit the market. I mean, sometimes you have to. And usually that means March, April, May, June. That's when most of the houses hit the market, majority. However, what happens is people know that often and will wait for that time period. And it's not even for that reason. People that often list houses in March, April, May, June are doing it because that's when they have to. It could be for school reasons. It could be they want to get done before the summer time starts. So that's one of the reasons why you see a lot more houses listed in that time period. And so the question is, okay, do you wait for that time? Okay, you can, because you have more options. The drawback is that a lot more people do that, and so that leads to more competition. So it's like, which would you do? So if you find a house that you like earlier in the season, I've really suggested people do this as much as possible. Look for houses as early in the season as possible, so you don't have to deal with that into the same degree. That also still leads into my PowerPoint, which we'll talk about now too. So this is kind of a PowerPoint talking about how to prepare and to strategize when relocating and buying a house in the springtime in 2024 in Virginia Beach, in the Virginia Beach area. So you'll see here, first one, big tips, how to prepare for a spring Virginia Beach relocation. All right, so I'm going to do this. So I'm going to show you a little thing here. There we go. So what do? I like big tips as a title, because I thought that was like, I'm not sure what that the orb and the square means, but I thought it was kind of cool. So I'm learning my decorative, my design skills as we go. So that's not why you're here to talk to me. I want to give you some help. So number one is, when you're trying to find your house, determine your out-of-pocket budget. Okay. So what does that mean? I mean, it means, so the first thing you do at any point in time is you get with a lender and get qualified to find your next house. Obviously, that is before you don't do almost anything else. Well, they're going to give you a number, and that number, it will signify that's the max amount you can pay for any house. Now, not any house, because that does change too, but conceptually, that's the amount you qualify for. But there's more to it than that, right? So it says lenders can qualify you for max purchase amount, but you need to determine after that how much money you're comfortable spending out of your personal money during the process. And below, you see the primary categories that fall into those is down payment, closing costs, inspections and mid-transaction costs, which are mostly inspections, and earnest money, and appraisal guarantees. And that's, I say important, and there's a reason why it's important. So down payment, generally speaking, right now we're talking 5% is still very common, as well as you can do 10%, you can do 20%. The higher you go, usually it helps with interest rates and all that stuff. But generally speaking, a lot of people do 5%. Or if you're a VA, you don't have to do anything. That can happen too. So that's one bucket. Another bucket's closing costs. Closing costs generally are going to be around 3%. That is not a hard, fast rule. That's what a lender can tell you. But generally speaking, you can factor in 3% of your purchase price will likely go towards closing costs, unless it's more like in the 200, 250 price range, 300 price range. You'll see that proportionally increase in relation to the cost of the house, if that makes sense. And then as you go higher in price, it usually trends down a little bit as well. And inspections and mid-transaction costs. So primarily you got home inspections. Home inspections based on the size of the house could be anywhere from $500 upwards of maybe $800 to $1,000 if we're talking about a 5,000 plus square foot house, and it's a larger property. You're talking about over $1,000 at that point. But generally speaking, if you're talking 2,500 square feet, 3,000, 2,000, you're in that $550 to $625 price range. You can get more, you can pay more, you can pay less. It's kind of, you get what you pay for, but in generally speaking, I'd say prepare for like around $600-700, and you'll have probably more than you'll need. In addition to that, you can get a termite moisture inspection, which is $65 unless you are VA, which you can't pay for that. So, but generally speaking, $60, $50, $100, somewhere in that range. And then on top of that, earnest money deposits, which are anywhere from, my suggestion, which there's no standard, but $1,000 is, I've seen very received well in some cases, if it's especially on a lower price range. But the higher prices you go, I'd suggest higher. Be anywhere from 1,000 to 5 to 10 to 50,000, 100,000. I've seen it as high as that sometimes. So it just depends. But generally speaking, if you're thinking in around the 2,500, 2,000 ish to 5,000 price range, or $1,000 earnest money deposits, you'll usually get, that'll be a well received number for most houses in the, anywhere from 200,000 upwards to 800,000 or 900,000. And as you go higher, you might want to start putting a bit more down, or put it more in earnest money. But the next one is appraisal guarantees. And this is one that I feel like people often forget. And we'll talk about this later in the PowerPoint, but appraisal guarantees are extremely, extremely important. This affects a lot of things. A lot of the types of houses that you'll get will be dictated as to whether or not you can and want to, or want to include an appraisal guarantee. What is an appraisal guarantee? If you've heard me talk about this before, here we go. I love talking. I love talking about this because I do think it's a very important thing to talk about. It's not always fun to talk about. So let's just go through a quick example. Let's just say you have. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. There we go. Let's say you are buying a house. Let's say it's $500,000. And let's say that house in Virginia Beach has got 5 offers on it. And this is one example. There can be examples where there are more offers, less offers, but this is just as an example to help make numbers easy. Let's say you're getting a $500,000 house and there are 5 offers. Well, what's the first thing that happens when there are multiple offers? What's the first natural reaction or response that buyers have to do to give a seller more confidence, or not say more confidence, more incentive to take their offer? Well, increase the price, right? So, 500 could go to 501 or 505, 525, 600. I'm making this up, but it could be anything. But the higher the prices go with that demand that can push the asking price higher, the offer amount higher, that number doesn't necessarily automatically mean that if that offer is accepted, that's the amount of money that the seller is going to get. If all things are as written in the contract. Normally. Why? Because when an offer gets accepted, that new seller, let's say an offer gets accepted at 525 for that $500,000 house. Well, that 525 number has now been what's the right word? That number is what the appraiser appraises the house, because in the process, an appraiser comes to appraise the house. That's the number that they're using to determine if the house is quote unquote worth what the offer is supposed to be. Now, that being said, value has a lot of different variables, and so that's one thing that's a hard time. I have a hard time with. I think a lot of people, it's hard with appraisals situations, because with appraisals, it's one person's opinion, right? It has to be a plausible opinion, in my opinion. But the reality is you can get 10 different appraisers and get 10 different results. So that's the issue to me with with the purchase process. Is not an exact thing. And so when you try and determine what a quote unquote house is valued at, it's based on one outsider's perspective. And so the sellers know that when a home purchase process includes an appraisal, that a third party appraiser has strong influence as to what the final sales price of the house could be. So their job is to basically protect the lender, make sure that the amount of the house is not worth less than what the lender's paying. That's why the appraiser is sent out there, to protect you. It's also really to protect the lender. So the appraiser goes out there, and the higher the price goes, generally speaking, depending on the house, and this is where it's a little bit different based on the house, depending on the house, there is a higher chance that the new sales price, $525, might not be what the appraisal comes back at. They might come back and appraise it at $500 or $515 or $485, or sometimes even higher, $545. Who knows? Who realistically can say for sure? Nobody can. So that's what makes sellers nervous, because if the appraisal comes back lower than $525, let's say it comes back at $520, well, unless it's written otherwise, the seller has to then either drop the sales price for the buyer, or renegotiate in some other way, which maybe you pay some of the difference. Like there's a difference. There's a $5,000 difference there. So how are they going to get that money? And if you say you don't want to pay anything, any difference, then if they don't drop the price, then you're not necessarily stuck. And again, check your contracts, because there are some details that maybe there's additions or changes in your specific ones. But consult your real estate agent and all that stuff. I got to say that the general stuff: consult your real estate agent, consult your attorney. I'm not your agent right now as I'm talking to you necessarily. So just talk to whoever's in your process. But generally speaking, if it's less, good chance you'll be able to get out of the contract. So the seller doesn't like that. They have 5 offers they're trying to decide between, and if they pick the number that they are most enthused by, they might like your 525. Maybe you beat the 523 offer, right? Well, if they take your 523 and it doesn't price for 523, now you kind of hold more cards. You can, in many cases, hold more cards. And now if the deal doesn't stay together, then they're back on the market again, and they're starting all over again, and wasted time. And now they're considered, in some cases, damaged goods is often a way you could say, just because you're now going back in the market again. People ask you, oh, why did the house fall through? What happened? It just creates these questions. So they want to make it the right decision early, or up in the first go around. So then what options do they have? Well, the way that often people decide, and sellers often decide which offer to take, is what's considered that appraisal guarantee. And back to the appraisal guarantee. An appraisal guarantee is essentially a level of assurance that you as the buyer are giving to the seller, saying, if the house does not appraise for the amount that I'm offering you, then I will pay the difference between the new or the dropped or the appraisal value and the sales price I'm offering you, up to a certain amount, and not to exceed my sales price. That's how I would suggest doing it, but you can do it many different ways. That's usually how it would go. So if you say offer 525 and you offer a $25,000 appraisal guarantee, just because in this case, like that listing price is 500 and the sales price or your offer price is 525, you're guaranteeing 25,000. Well, then that gives the seller a lot more confidence that they're going to get 525, right? And that's what gets them excited. However, keep in mind that if, let's just say, you guaranteed that $25,000, it does not mean that you always are going to pay that. It's only if it's needed. So for example, if the house appraises, in this case, 525 house appraises for 524. Well, if it's written a certain way, depends on how it's written. You then would be paying $1,000 from the 524 to the 525. You pay $1,000. And I wish I had written this down and so you could see as a visual, but I should do that for a different video, I think. But up to 525. So just because you offered 25,000 does not mean that you're going to be paying 25,000 in that situation. If it appraises for 400,000 and your offer is 525, then you'd be paying the $25,000. If it appraises for 540, you don't pay the appraisal guarantee at all. So it really depends on the situation and circumstances that dictate how much you're paying. But the idea is that in theory, you want to make sure that you're capping the max of what you're going to be paying in your offer with that appraisal guarantee. But the whole point is that the appraisal guarantee matters a lot. And this, you could offer $600,000, but if you have no appraisal guarantee for a $500,000 house, the 525 offer with a full appraisal guarantee, that would possibly be stronger, depending on the house, right? And you can guarantee 1,000. You can guarantee $1. You can guarantee the whole thing. That you can do. There's a lot of ways to do it, and there's no specific thing you have to do, but there are a lot of options to do it. But the idea is that the more you're willing to guarantee, the stronger that piece is, the stronger the offer is, drastically speaking. That's why I wanted to make sure that you gathered. This is why this is important. If you have an appraisal guarantee if you have the money that you have available to do this sort of thing, in addition to closing costs and down payment and inspection costs, if you have that money, then that is what the seller will be able, you can use the appraisal guarantee, but you can make offers with much more strength on houses that may require it. And this is where trying to decide between the specific types of houses the options you have will come into play a lot, because not every house will need an appraisal guarantee to get it, but a lot of them will have multiple offers that may include them. So you have to we'll talk about some other things later in these slides to talk more about when that matters, but also just making sure that if that type of house you want might need one based on what your agent might suggest, make sure you have that budgeted and have a proof of funds that will show that you have that money, and because they'll often ask for it as well. So we'll keep going forward, and a lot of this will connect and make more sense in different concepts or formats as well as we go forward. So form a realistic price range target. So what does that mean? What is your max comfort price range? Okay, so if a lender says you can qualify up to 700,000, but you only want to pay 550, okay, you don't, the lender can say all they want, but if your max comfort price range is around 550, that's what we're working with, right? That's the high end. Also, what is the lowest price range that you're still comfortable with what you find on the market? Now, this is also a very important one because it'll help frame what you're comfortable with what types of houses you're comfortable with, right? In theory, everybody would love to pay $300,000, but if you want a house that is really a $500,000 to $600,000 house, you don't need to be looking at $300,000 houses usually, right? So bracketing that, figuring out, okay, what is the lower price range that I'm looking at? What's tolerable to me? Would I still feel comfortable? There might be some neighborhoods that you might like at 475. You might think you wanted 550, but maybe you can find the same thing at 475 and be happy. And there's your bottom line bracket. You got that price range. You can use that to kind of figure out what your range likely is going to be. So moving in, next question is, what cities are you targeting? Okay, this is important because each city can have differing levels of demand. And that goes back to some strategies about how to get houses in each city. Your budget may be drastically affected by where you're planning to move. Absolutely. A house that you might want for $600,000 in Virginia Beach might only be $500 in Portsmouth, or $475 or whatever, or $400 or $450 maybe. Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, often very similar, but there are a lot of parts in Chesapeake that you can find houses that are cheaper. But you go up to Newport News, you can get more house for your money in a lot of places in Newport News compared to Virginia Beach. So Williamsburg, less for your money in Newport News, but you might like, it's all that stuff. But the idea is your budget's going to change based on where you want to be. And the amount of offers on most houses will potentially be influenced by this, as well as other variables. And this is big. So if you find that you like, maybe I was talking to a client, a real great client. We've been exchanging a lot of ideas, talking with, giving him a lot of information about, different areas and strategizing of how to strategize best for each part of the Hampton Roads area. And we talked about this, and there, like, for example, Portsmouth, you can get the same house cheaper in Portsmouth that you can, relatively speaking, in Virginia Beach, right? And at the same time, there are some drawbacks to different parts of town, right? Places in Portsmouth might not get as many offers there as compared to another city, for example, or places in Chesapeake might not get as many offers as in Portsmouth, depending on which area it is, right? But knowing that you have to maybe, what's the right word? You have to know that you may have to offer different strength levels of offers to get houses accepted in different cities and different regions. And this is also very important because you have to, well, we're going to talk about this in a second, but make sure you factor that in. Consider the city and the area that you're targeting to determine how hard you have to target. Now, this is the interesting part, and I think I've figured this out. Like I've finally gotten in writing what I'm looking for when I'm trying to explain this concept. To determine your flex level. What does that mean? Each house will require a different level of flexing to get the house. Basically, that means is, if you find a house listed at $500,000 in Virginia Beach, and it's going to have 5 offers, there's going to be a certain level of flexing, meaning you have to swing a certain degree of aggression or intensity, meaning higher offer, more maybe appraisal guarantees, other things, a lot of things you can use for strategies, but you can add to increase your amount of strategies in the degree to which you use those strategies based on where you are and what you're comfortable with, of course. But you have to determine, when I say determine your flex level, figure out what you're comfortable with flexing for a house. And that goes back to budget. That goes back to the out-of-pocket budget. That appraisal guarantee will come up a lot, I think, in a lot of cases. And that's like that's part of the flex. Inspection stuff is another part of it. A lot of details, but figure out what you're comfortable with and get used to those concepts and those strategies. And knowing that each area will change how hard you have to flex. And so figure out, like, if you can lift 250 pounds and getting a house in one city might require only 225, but you might need 250 in another one. Make sure you know like how hard you're pushing and how hard you need to push for each area. So this goes to the next thing is research. Well, the question really comes down to then how to decide when to flex and how hard to flex, right? So then go to research with your agent, past sales and target area. Okay, why do you do that? Well, if you take like a 2-3 month period, and then it really depends on where in the area, in what part of the region that you're looking, this will possibly influence how far back you'll have to look. But research with the agent, past sales, it shows the likelihood of what you're looking for coming up again. Did I say that right? Yeah, the likelihood of what you're looking for. If what will it come up again? Is that weird grammar? If you got any other comment, any other suggestions of how to word that, what's the likelihood of what you're looking for will come up again within your target time frame? How many times will what you want happen is what I'm trying to say. And it gives you time to adjust your criteria depending on how what you'll want will hit the market in your price range. So figure out the likelihood of the house you want hitting the market again, or the type of house. And that goes through looking at, not all, but talking to your agent. Say, hey, in the last 2-3 months, can you send me things that might work or could have worked in the past? And so then you can say, well, if there's only 2 houses that might have worked in the last 2 months or 5 months or whatever, that can give you an idea of what taste level, I guess, what well, lack of a better term, how picky you are, if to be very blunt about it. And if you can't find examples in the past of what you want, good chance you might not be able to find it in the time frame that you want, especially as you go forward. Now, however, that being said, again, usually in the wintertime and fall, you'll see different-ish types of houses compared to what you'll find in the springtime. And it's not exact, but I will say that I think you'll find more like 4 or 5 plus bedroom houses in the springtime, just because that's when a lot of people plan to sell. But so it's not exact. So even sometimes you can go back a whole year, but just tone that price range down a little bit to make sure you're not, looking for houses at 500,000 last year and then realize that house is now, 520. You know what I mean? But my point, I guess, is to say, go back to what level, what degree, what time frame back makes sense. Start really figuring out how many houses that you like have hit the market, and that will tell you a lot about how wide of a window that you need to look for a house. And then also how hard to swing for a specific house, how hard to flex. Because let's say you start looking in February and you really don't have to move until May or June, but you could move in, April or May if you wanted to. So if you look early, you're basically giving yourself more time. But when a house hits the market in February or March, how do you know how hard to swing for that house, how hard to flex, right? It's because that the fact of the matter is each type of house has chances of reappearing again, or style of house, or the same kind of thing could happen again. But if it may only happen once a year, you better flex after that thing really hard the first time, because you might not see it again. But if it's like, this is going to happen every week or so, then you don't have to swing as hard. So I use that time frame and going back in time to figure that out, so you can know and how hard to swing. Because one of the interesting feelings that does happen a lot is, as you look in the wintertime and you're looking for a long time, if you pick the wintertime to start looking, it will feel like the days are dragging on and on and on, because you're looking at houses during a market that has the least amount of houses in it. And so if you're not finding houses that you like regularly, you're like, gosh, will I ever see a house that I like? And that's normal. It's normal. It's also wintertime. And so if you know that the amount of the likelihood of you finding a house that you like in a specific window of time is high or higher, then you know that even though it's wintertime, your time's coming. Just be patient, right? But if it pops up in February, March, and you're like, this is the only time the option I have, or one I've seen, you got to jump. You got to do it. And there's always variance in between. So definitely research with your agent about that. And then, oh, hey, Brian. Sorry, I didn't go back. I need to look at the oh, sorry. Goodness gracious, you're sitting there staring at my recording face. I apologize. Hope you could have heard that. Felt like the competition is going to be really tough again in the summer. Yes, I do think so. At least in the springtime. I mean, we'll see how the summer goes, but I'm really wondering how the rates are going to affect this. I mean, they haven't gone down much right now, and so I wasn't assuming that they were per se, but I mean, everybody's been saying the rates will go down. The rates will go down. What if they don't? You know what I mean? So that we'll see how that goes. But I'm not assuming anything at this point, to be quite honest with you. I think if anybody does, I think they're a little optimistic on what they think. Personally, from Katy, Texas. Hey, BF. I'm looking at Ford's Colony. Love Ford's Colony. I love it. I love it. If you have any questions, let me know about specifics in there, or about specific houses, or just different parts of the area. I love Ford's Colony, and there's drawbacks, but like anywhere. But we can go into more details and pros and cons about all that. But yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I hope when are you moving from Katy, Texas, over here, or is that happening soon? So anyway, going to the flex. Okay, so this is a key piece right here. Ensure that your flex level is equal to what's required to win. Okay, so what does that mean? This is where the rubber meets the road. So you could say, I'll read this. You only want to flex a 6 out of 10 for a specific house, but the winning offer required is a 7 out of 10. What does that mean? It means that, say you find a house in Virginia Beach and it's 500,000, and you're like, I could go like 505 for that house, but maybe it's an in-demand house. And maybe the winner was 515, 520. And again, there are other variables beyond just price here, but just for conversation's sake, that may happen. Maybe you didn't get it. Maybe you could have offered 510, and you could have offered 515. The idea is that you were offering strong into what you felt like, hey, this is strong, but it wasn't strong enough, right? So actually, let's go to let's use that same concept and move it to Newport News. So you're flexing a 6 out of 10 for that house, and the winning offer required a 7 out of 10. Well, in that case, you're like, hey, well, you may have thought of there are specific reasons why you didn't want to offer that flex 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 to get the house, right? Maybe it was because of where it is. It's too far of a drive. Maybe it needed some work, and it's in the right location, but it had a lot more renovations you needed to do, or whatever. Something was saying, hey, I don't feel comfortable enough making a flexing higher for the house. All that's totally fine. The important thing is to say that the next logical progression in that thought is often to say, well, I would flex more. I'd flex an 8 or something higher for a better house. So the next thing is you'll say I'll flex more, but for a better house location, etc. So the next logical thing that happens often is you raise your flex level, but while your flex level has raised, everyone else's levels have also raised too, because the house that you think or you're seeing in your mind is this is a better house for me. Chances are that better house for you is probably a better house for other people too. So when you bid a 6 out of 10 house flex for a 7 out of 10 required flex for that first house, and you switch to an 8 out of 10 flex for that better location or better house, whatever, and everyone else may have changed and flexed to 9 out of 10. And the winner is a 9 out of 10 because that area, people are willing to flex proportionately, maybe equally, but still more than what you're willing to flex. So the important thing is to not be caught up in a market in your mind that doesn't reflect reality, if that makes sense. It might be close to reality, but if you keep missing on offers, several times, reconsider what you think is necessary to get an offer accepted. And maybe while you think you're flexing more, you might still be constantly missing the market for every part of town. And that's back to like talking to your agent, getting good advice. Number one. Number two is that's back to the budget. Have that budget ready. Make sure you know what you can and can't afford, because you want to be able to use to flex as hard as you possibly can for some of these houses if you want them. Again, not every person has the same needs, right? Too, but then once you have that budget and you've properly calibrated your flex, concepts, I guess, in your mind, what you can flex and how hard you need to flex. Target properties with confidence. You're going to have the highest likelihood of getting offers accepted once those dynamics are in line. And it might take missing one sometimes, but your agent can give you advice on what things to suggest. But that missed offer, that missed house can be part of the next information to help you figure out what is the market for the type of house I'm looking for. That's the important thing, is you're also learning in the process, right? And so didn't do a good job, I guess, of showing a PowerPoint that is easy to see. That's my next learning experience, is to do a good PowerPoint. Man, that is awful looking, guys. I am sorry. But you see what I'm saying here? It all is, you have to reverse engineer what you want. And when you start from the very beginning, like for me, meaning January, February, March, whatever, make sure you have your budget prepared so that you're not surprised by how much you may have to be aggressive to get a specific kind of house. And please make sure that what you want is accurate in relation to what you actually need to pay to get it. And that is the next thing I think of is, well, Sam, why are you having me spend all my money? I'm really, promise you, I'm not trying to. I really don't like making comments that involve people spending more money than they want to pay. It makes me feel uncomfortable. But it's the reality of how the market is working. And so I just don't want you going through 3 or 4 months being led down this path of like thinking that what you want is possible. What might be possible, but what you want maybe for the price that you want to pay might not be, So, and I say all this with love. I want the best for all you guys. I want you guys to be happy, and I want your process to be exciting and to be enjoyable, and you get the house that you want. And so there are all those dynamics, all those factors come into play to help make that decision. So, if you have any more questions, please drop it in the comments. I want to make sure I answer any questions for you. I'm sorry about the minute and a half of screen that just shot up there saying that my recording ended, but I saw you guys are still watching. So thank you. That's a big compliment, honestly, to me. I guess the fact that my words are probably more important than you being able to see my face. So, or the weird PowerPoint I just made. But if you have any more questions, let me know. I do think that I might even turn it into a podcast or something, just so you can listen to this, or something to give a visual, because I just do think that these concepts are important, and I do think they're not talked about very much. Your expectations of what the market is in relation to what the market actually is. Making sure you line up your expectations. It's all, to me, very important, because it definitely affects how long you might be looking for a house, and if you get the right house that you want. I also don't want you to react in a frustrated way because you didn't get the house you want. I just want this to end. I'm going to just go get a house. And then you tried to solve a long-term challenge or problem buying a long-term house with short-term decision making, and like trying to fix the short-term problem, which is, I just need to get this over with, and you create a longer-term issue. I don't want you to do that. And so yeah, if that's it, if you have any more questions, let me know. But you can also, if you have questions or you need help, if you want me to help you relocate to the area, that's what I do. I help people relocate to the area all the time, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. That's what I do. And so you can email me there. Email me there. You can do that. You can call me, which is, the phone number is here. You can call or text me. And you can also go on my website there. You can peruse houses there. You can comment below as well. All those things. Hey, awesome. Ed Garden with Audrey. Is that appropriate way to say your name? If not, I apologize. From New Jersey. Awesome. Are you coming to the area? Are you figuring it out? Yeah. I've worked with a lot of people. I help a lot of people actually from New Jersey. Even currently helping some people, great family from New Jersey, and they're wonderful. They're awesome. So yeah. Let's see, what else was I going to say? Phone number. Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah. And then comment below if you have questions. And again, if anybody can see the comments after the video, feel free to, answer the questions as well if anybody has questions. So I love helping people do this. I think it's awesome. I think it's a hard thing to do, to move from one part of the country to another, or one part of the world to the other. So I want to be able to help bridge that gap. And there's a leap of faith that involves like moving somewhere you've never been before, being stationed to somewhere you've never been stationed before. But I want to help people do that. And I grew up here and I love this area and I know it really well. So I want to be able to just help convey my knowledge over to you if I can. So yeah, and that's it. So I guess, I do videos every week about moving and relocating to the area. I do videos about neighborhoods. I love talking about neighborhoods. So if you if you liked what you saw tonight, and through all the PowerPoint gaffes I made, I've got a lot more pre-planned videos that I put a lot more specific detail into that weren't live on my channel. You can watch them at any point. They're all different types. Oh, hey, Brian. We'll never forget driving up to our new home, having never set foot in it. You did a great job for us. Thank you very much. That means a lot. And again, it's not an easy process. I get it, and so I want everybody to experience something positive in the process and not be something that you have to just, get this over with. You don't have to. I don't think so. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. And if not, I do videos every Wednesday. I post them in the evenings, talking about relocating to the area, neighborhoods, best concepts, things to do sometimes. Like, if I talk about a neighborhood, I might talk about what's around there, the areas around there, the grocery stores, because I love talking about grocery stores, oddly enough. I'm a big Wegmans fan. I'm just talking about things I like now. I like Wegmans. I like Kroger. They have a great organic section anyways. So yeah, anyway, that's it for tonight. If you have any more questions, you can send them in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. And if you have any questions, reach out to me too. I'll help you relocate to the area, and we will talk soon. Thanks a lot.